We are live. Welcome to my video. This is going to be a review of the first season of Daredevil Born Again, the recent Disney Plus show. And there will not be any spoilers for the show itself, but I will be spoiling the MCU leading up to when the first episode of the season premiered. And yeah, right. One more thing. The show is rated TVMA, so will this video be. I fucking loved this season. I have very high hopes for upcoming seasons. I'm doing this review now because these days, you never know, shows get canceled even when, you know, we've been told there would be more seasons. And given how critical of Trump the show is, like, I hope nobody, you know, I hope he doesn't realize how critical it, like, honestly, I wouldn't rule out he'd watch some of this and be like, oh wow, I look great. But otherwise, I don't know, maybe someone can like jingle some keys in his face so we get more of the show. Because yeah, as you might have heard, Wilson Fisk on this show is extremely Trump-coded. Like, it's not even subtle, and I don't think it has to be. I think at this point we are past subtlety. People keep voting for this motherfucker, so yeah. Sorry, that is offensive to actual motherfuckers. Wannabe daughter fucker. And yeah, I'm not gonna spoil them. I want you to see them for yourself, but there's a number of things here that very overtly parallel things that Trump has said and done. Now, I think I will just briefly talk about, as you may have heard, there were some reshoots. The show didn't originally look exactly the way it does now. And some people have said those are extremely obvious. I can definitely spot at least some of them. I don't think it's a huge problem. But yeah, there definitely are some spots where a character or an event will, you know, there'll be something there, and then, you know, a bunch of stuff happens that's not related to that character and or event. And yeah, you know, the character or event was added in reshoots because some people were very unhappy about what they heard. And I do appreciate, I do think some of the things we heard were very frustrating. Others I didn't think were as big of a problem. Can't really discuss which without spoiling, but I believe I said everything that I wanted to in... I've done individual videos talking about every single episode in detail with spoilers for that particular episode and the ones leading up to it in those cases. But yeah, some have found this to be underwhelming as a follow-up to the Netflix Marvel Netflix Daredevil, you know, the whole Defender-verse. And I understand where they're coming from, and I was genuinely kind of worried, because I do think the Disney Plus shows, by and large, a lot of the time just don't quite live up to what we got that was MCU and or adjacent before Disney Plus shows started to be set there. You know, the TV shows, the streaming, etc., you know, all the way back from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, haven't watched all of them, and I'm not making any excuses for fucking Inhumans, the show. Other than that, the Inhumans' presence in MCU adjacent stuff has been great in what I've watched so far. But yeah, I'm just about ready to, done with season 6 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Those shows, a lot of the time, I think, are better in a lot of ways, a lot of really important ways, than the Disney Plus shows. But recently the Disney Plus shows, you know, not always, not fucking Secret Invasion, but some of them have been amazing, and I do think this is one of those. I think that does just about cover... Yeah, so, since this comes, late into the MCU, fuck me, we're 17 years into the MCU, and I still remember the start very well. Yeah, obviously that brings up the issue, can you just jump in here? Like, hypothetically, let's say you're watching this video right now, thank you for that. I don't know, I should probably say, you probably have better things to do with your time, but I still do appreciate it. Yeah, no, seriously though, really grateful for viewership. Yeah, hypothetically, you are a fan of Daredevil, you couldn't give a fuck about the MCU. Yes, you will be fine. Even if you didn't watch the Marvel Netflix shows, you can jump into this here, like, I will say there are times where, like, honestly, a friend of mine, he watched the first season of the Netflix show, and he is very busy, so he didn't have time to watch the, seasons 2 and 3. He just sat and watched, I want to say it was a YouTube video right here on YouTube, that brought him up to speed. What happens in seasons 2 and 3. And that is definitely an option. Other than that, if you don't do that, you didn't watch the stuff leading up to this, especially the Daredevil stuff. This is primarily focused on Daredevil in the MCU adjacent, you will have to pay very, very close attention. There's a bunch of new stuff as well, in addition to them bringing you up to speed on important stuff that happened in, 3 seasons of, Netflix. And I suppose, no, right, I have given myself permission to spoil everything. There's also Hawkeye, there's Echo, technically She-Hulk, I guess, Spider-Man No Way Home, there's a bunch of, not every single one of them is equally relevant, but stuff is brought up from different ones, and yeah, there's also a bunch of new characters. I'm very glad that I watched all the other stuff first, but yeah, if you feel like, if you haven't jumped on board before now and you don't want to be overwhelmed with information, I'm just going to make absolute sure. Yeah, in addition, you can watch the 3 seasons of the Netflix Daredevil show. You can watch Echo, Hawkeye, She-Hulk, Defenders, all of these, Now, I think that does bring us nice. So yeah, there's a lot to say about character. Almost none that I can say without spoiling. I will just say I thought they did a good job giving the characters something to do. That's always, when you bring something back, because that is the thing. Again, keep in mind I'm spoiling. The Netflix, Defenders verse, it was a really solid. I mean, I wouldn't say that the end of season 3 of that show was, like, supposed to be the end. I'm sure they would have liked to do more. But this is a new chapter. They're not everything is the same. I think it was Cosmonaut Variety Hour who said that he watched season 3 of the Netflix show right before he watched Born Again, and that was a mistake. I did not do that, but I can see what he means, especially if it's the first time you watch season 3. Yeah, there's gonna be stuff where it feels, underwhelming. In some ways, this does not match the level of, I'm trying to grade on a curve here. I don't want to just constantly be saying negative things. In a number of ways, this is not quite up to the level of the Netflix shows, which remains some of the best in a lot of ways, not all the way, that, Marvel live action in recent years, especially Jessica Jones. Fuck, that really amazing show. Really, really hope that we're gonna see more of her character. Yeah. Anyway, in live action, I mean, in the, yeah, I think that does pretty well cover. What's the other thing that I wanted to say about that? I'm thinking out loud. I'm not. You don't have to put in the comments what you think I was going to say. Yeah. Yes. I think they did a pretty good job coming up with, where are these characters now? Giving them new things to do. I've seen some say that some of this, it's like, we saw this on the Netflix show. I'm not going to give details. I'm just saying some of this stuff felt, and others felt that, oh wow, this is so far away from the Netflix show. How can you even call this a continuation? And that is definitely, I appreciate some people have had that reaction. Others will in the future as they watch the show. I thought they largely did a good job. I was not hugely disappointed, which again, I'm not incapable, I love most things MCU, but I'm not incapable of being disappointed by MCU and adjacent. Case in point, Secret Invasion. I think that does cover the, so this first season has 9 episodes. From what I understand, it was supposed to be one season of 18 episodes, and then they split it in half. I didn't feel like they cut it at a point where it's like, come on, you didn't tell enough of a story. I felt like it was enough of a story for one season. There is some filler. There's one episode in particular that a number of people have called out as being like, why is that here? You don't have to fill that much time. Is this because it's a sequel to a Netflix show? A Marvel Netflix show, at least. I haven't watched anything else Netflix. Maybe I will at some point, but yeah. I think that does, yeah. So, yeah. A lot of the time the writing is very strong. The characters have their own voices and feel a lot of the time consistent with what we've seen from them before in MCU and adjacent. There's a lot of compelling decisions in direction. I think, yeah, I'll just say that some of the fighting, for example, the way it's staged is quite, yeah. And, yeah, not a spoiler to say, this does have the, not actual one-taker, but made to look like one-taker, in that we became accustomed to from Daredevil Netflix. Yeah, the cinematography and editing a lot of the time are really great. Some of the action scenes, especially early on, I think, I meant to note, I think it's the first third of the season, maybe the first half or so. A lot of the time it's good, but then every so often there'll be a little cut or an angle where it's like, what did you do that for? And it'll maybe be difficult to tell exactly where are they in relation to each other, or who just hit who, that sort of thing, stuff you want to try to avoid in a fight scene, unless that is just what you're going for, and since most of the time it's not the case, I don't think it was what they were going for. But yeah, before the season is over, I forget if it's the last 2/3 or the last half, but they do actually unfuck that entire situation, and the rest of the time it is great. And this has some of the best live-action Daredevil action that we've seen since they have the money for it. And I forget the name, but one of the people who worked on the Netflix show has come right out and said, and I appreciate this could be like damage control or PR or whatever the fuck, but he at least claims they would have done this if they had the money. On the Netflix show, everything was practical. There was almost no CG at all. And yeah, with this they have Disney money now. They're not relegated to Netflix money. So yeah, Daredevil does some of the shit we see in the Ben Affleck movie. Yes, I'm not saying that overall that's a great movie, but that was one thing that really CGI, they pushed it too far. which was frustrating. But I'm sorry, when I was 13, reading Daredevil comics, one of the things I loved was him swinging through the city like that and doing these acrobatics that it's like, okay, there's no fucking way a person could do that for real safely, you know. And here we get it. And the CG is not always 100% convincing, but they don't have so much of it that, at least in my opinion, you know, I didn't find it super distracting. Now, yeah, this has amazing acting. This is, again, something where the Netflix Daredevil... yeah, Netflix MCU... Netflix Marvel. Fuck. Third time's the charmed one. Yeah. The Netflix shows. You know what? Let's just pretend I said it right from the start. Marvel, Netflix, Netflix, Marvel always... most of the time had amazing acting, and that carries over here. And part of that is they brought the cast back as much as they could, most of it, and the yeah, fantastic stuff, you know. Right, fuck, I kept that a little too vague. I'm not saying, as far as I know, they didn't recast anyone. What I'm saying is there are some characters that people really wanted to see in another season of Daredevil that do not make an appearance as such. You know, they did not bring everyone back. That's what I'm saying. Let's see. The pacing, in some ways, this is following the example of the Marvel, Netflix, Marvel shows to a fault. There are times where it's like, you're just filling time now. This is not really, we don't need to see this kind of thing. Let's see. I think that does... yeah. Another area where it is very Netflix, Marvel, Netflix is the violence. And a lot of the time it is it's fights and such getting very brutal. There's dirty fighting, that sort of thing. There is at least one thing that is not that, and I'll just say that some have felt that it went too far, that it was gratuitous. And, you know, I can definitely see an argument that it was more there because by now there is an expectation of showing something that goes that far in a season of Daredevil that has anything to do with the Netflix show. And I understand why it, yeah, felt like it didn't really work for them. Personally, I didn't really mind it, but I do appreciate the like I try to give credit when I do think that, you know, someone who disagrees with me, I mean, they're wrong obviously, but I can appreciate where they're coming from, and I do think an argument could be made there, but it's not a huge part of the show. If, you know, yeah, and you know, by now, you know, if you're at all considering something this closely related to a Marvel Netflix show, you probably know, yeah, they get really, really violent sometimes. So, yeah, comes with the territory. And I did say at the start of this video, it's rated TVMA. That might be about right, and yeah, with the TVMA they can basically swear as much as they fucking want, and I thought they did a good job of making it organic, because, you know, sometimes you'll see, like, if I don't know if anybody else fucking remembers Max Payne 2, but, or at least that aspect of it, that was one of the first times that, you know, they could say fuck. And there are parts of that game where, like, someone will just say, oh, what the fuck? You're a stupid fuck. Fuck you, you know, and just over and over, and it's like, okay, we get it. You're 13 and you just discovered the word. Come on, man. Like, as you can tell, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying fuck. I try to limit it to videos that are rated for adults, and at this point, I try to avoid conversations in real life where I want to say fuck you to someone. But, you know, I do think when it appears in fiction, it's good for it to feel organic, unless it is something exclusively made for 13-year-olds, which, you know, that's fine. I don't think there's something wrong with making something for them. But the, let's see, what's the other thing? It felt organic. It felt like, you know, it's the kind of thing where sometimes, you know, in fiction there will be characters who swear a lot, and it tells us something about the character. Other times there'll be characters who never swear, and then you have characters who only swear when they're really frustrated. So you know when the shit has hit the fucking fan. And yeah, I thought they did a really good job here, you know, with those. Because, yeah, sometimes you'll watch something that's, like, rated R or TVMA or something like that, and, yeah, people will constantly be swearing, and it's like, I mean, it doesn't bother me. I don't have some kind of, like, moral obligation or something, but just sometimes when you have an environment where some swear and others don't, it can work really well. I do really love, and that was apparently not even originally in the script, but in... Fuck me. Ah, shit. No, it's Casino, right? It's not Goodfellas? I'm pretty sure it's Casino. It's one of the Scorsese, you know... There's a character who, like, swears, and Scorsese wanted his mother to be in the scene, and she couldn't hear swearing without saying, "Do you have to swear?" So Scorsese was, you know, Marty was like, okay, sure, that's your character. You don't like him swearing, so he's just got to make sure that he responds with something, you know, because otherwise it feels, you know, awkward. And I think that's one of the more memorable, you know, those are two really great movies. I'm not dissing them, but yeah, one thing that has always stuck out to me was that bit, because I'm sorry, it's funny to me that this, like, woman who knows that, you know, this relative of hers is working with organized crime, and she's like, do you have to be so rude? That's just fucking funny to me. It amuses me greatly, the kinds of things that conservatives get up in arms about. Yeah. There's that joke about I have no idea if it's, like, based on a true story or something, but someone who wrote a dictionary, you know, at a fancy dinner party, approached by you know, upper class woman, and she's like, I knew I could depend on you to not put any dirty words in, and he's like, and I knew I could depend on you to look every one of them up. I think that might actually cover this entire season. Yeah, I thought they did a really great job with, like, there is an overarching plot, there are character arcs, there are, you know, things that develop over the season in general, relationships also. I thought they did well on most of those aspects. With the, let's see, I think, I feel like there's something left that I really want to say. Oh, right, the music is still amazing, and we get a new opening, you know, credits bit, done very much in a style similar to the Netflix ones, and it's, you know, not a spoiler to say, you'll see it a few minutes into the first episode. Basically, it's Lady Justice, among other things, as a statue, like, cracking and crumbling, and, you know, one of the things that you know, actually, yeah, I'll just, over the course of the opening sequence, you see stuff uncrumble and assemble its Avengers into Daredevil, you know, so, yeah, really, really nicely done, great symbolism there, just, yeah, in that regard, I do think it is worthy of Netflix, the Netflix show. I think that might be about... Yeah, I hope that this will lead to more of these Marvel Netflix Marvel things appearing on Disney Plus and being made MCU canon, and the whole shebang. And I think, yeah, really looking forward to the next season and the next, you know, I suppose I won't say exactly what, but they have already said they're doing something other than more seasons of this that are related to Marvel Netflix Marvel. Should I stop saying Marvel Netflix Marvel? The thing is, I can never remember if it is officially called Marvel Netflix or Netflix Marvel, and I figure if I say both, at least one of them will have been the wrong one.